Yeah. Regarding the online conferences, last week was the first Red Hat Summit, which went virtual. So I didn't look too much after it, didn't have time to participate. I participated in a couple of like community chats, but yeah, it wasn't the same experience like chatting with people at a booth. Definitely, yeah. I mean, that part is hard to match, right? In the virtual world.
I'm just kind of curious if it isn't against the rules that so I understand if you want to keep it to yourself, but I'm just curious as to what the attendance was like compared to a physical one, because I'm kind of suspecting you could get more just because you don't have to physically get there. But
I don't know if it was a public figure. It probably was, but because it was completely free this time, and that it was in the tens of thousands of people registered. I don't have any idea. It might come out this week how many people actually attended the keynotes and sessions and things like that, but I don't know. But I know that it was a huge number of people.
I was just speculating. There's two things going on. It's you don't have to block out the physical travel, but sometimes when you have free conferences and things, you get a lot of no-shows too, or people who will then say, well, I can just watch it online later, and then they never get around to it. So I think kind of the registrations, when you have physical registrations where people had to pay $1,000 and book travel, 95% of them are actually going to show up. But online, I'm guessing that the no-shows would be less than half, but just a guess.
To me, also the physical events has that particular value. So that's my block time, couple of days to just go and watch everything you didn't get to watch over the last couple of months and talk to people. Otherwise, you will watch it with one eye and try to do something with another eye, or
Yeah, or have your boss and your department coming in with interruptions all day.
And then you say like, yeah, I'll watch it later. Yeah.
Yeah,
and then,
I enjoy the most of meeting all the people and talk to them. Yeah.
Yeah, especially with the experience now where a lot of people are home with their kids as yet another distraction.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. But I just saw this morning that there's an invitation to send the proposals for the KubeCon North America in Boston. So I guess they are planning to go with it.
I think it might close fairly soon. I think they extended it. But anyway, now for us, for the maintainer track, those usually come late, and I haven't seen any news even about when those are due to go out.
Yeah.
But
do you know where this year will be for North America?
It's Boston, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think technically that one is potentially still physical too.
Oh, okay.
And I thought it was Boston, maybe November. So potentially it's a little cold, at least for me.
Yeah, I can imagine it's going to be cold.
It depends
Boston.
where you come from. I mean, for some people, Boston might be warmer than where they're coming from, but
sure.
Here's I'll put the link as well in the chat, in the agenda.
So then for the European session, how did your CFP go? Was it your talk?
I didn't propose anything for this one, so.
No, I'm saying I thought you submitted something for the Europe one, right?
No, not this time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I did one, but it got rejected.
Yeah, I think nowadays.
Sorry. I was having one with together with James from VMware, James Kirkland, but that one got refused.
Oh, I thought I saw your.
Yeah. Sorry about it. But as you guys said, I mean, if we have more time during these meetings and organize virtual stuff, we can put all these things there. Hey, Moritz.
Hey.
And Cindy, I think you missed the last one, but we were talking about potentially trying to do the equivalent of what we've done at the past physicals was to have a face-to-face lunch. And we were thinking we'd like to simulate that with the birds of a feather, even though it would be on Zoom. And even when we had those lunches, they weren't officially in the agenda, but I don't think this would need to be either. And given that they're virtual, we could even try to divide up users into use cases, perhaps, where I think the industrial IoT, the telco edge, and maybe retail edge are all significant groups of people that have fairly different interests. And rather than have one birds of a feather, it might be worth having, as meant 3 or, I think we don't want to go crazy on it, but I think that when we've had people assemble in our session and by use case, we found that there are certain examples that get large numbers of people and others are kind of obscure. So Moritz, it looks really sunny where you're at.
Yeah. I don't have any shades yet, so it's a little bit weird right now.
Okay. Yeah, I just realized I'm muted. So I know like for Zoom, you can split into subgroups, right? I really like the idea of like a virtual face-to-face chat. Potentially we can like meet, set it up, and then if we see more people, and then we can vote it and divide it into even further groups, like industrial IoT, like retail, telecom, or even connected cars.
And I think rather than divide one meeting into subgroups, maybe we could just have different meetings, because there might be some people, like, even though he's not with us today, Kilton would potentially be interested in multiple groups, right? So
okay.
It might be worth doing that. And I'm thinking maybe this is potentially, unlike a physical, going to grab people from all over the world. Our default should probably be, since this is a replacement for Europe, to put it in a European-friendly time zone. But maybe before we have any unofficial face-to-face, we could just have one of those polls in Slack to help people, have the people actually pick a time. Because I think that would help get attendance too. If the people interested in that use case, if we let them choose their own time, I think there's a better chance of turnout.
I think generally the North American time works all right with the people in Europe. So that's morning in US and early afternoon in Europe. So something around that is probably we can go for. And especially we always get a much better attendance at that time slot anyways, right?
Yeah, I don't know what the perspective is, like, because I suspect the CNCF will place this conference in daylight European hours, but just because they're calling it Europe. So maybe we should do the same thing, because if it's the same days as KubeCon Europe, I don't want to force somebody who's spent the day in the conference to also not get any sleep. Even if they're able to make the meeting, maybe they have family obligations or something and don't want to turn it into a 24-hour event. The poll might take care of that consideration just because no one would vote for it. But the trouble here is people from North America could end up outvoting the Europeans, even though in theory it's a conference for the Europeans.
But we can frame the slots. I mean, we can offer people just some slots that are Europe friendly. But as I said, like that meeting that we had for North America, an hour earlier, hour later, those three hours, I think, and that's all span of like a 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. So it's reasonable even for the conference hours, right? And it's not too bad for US folks as well. usually. I mean, it's a little bit early in the morning, but it's not too crazy.
Yeah.
And then so sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Maurice.
And then we would do the sessions in parallel, or like one stream, basically. Because we have multiple topics like telco and retail and so on.
I always think not having them at the same time, just because there might be some individuals who'd want to go to multiple sessions.
So we would have like, I don't know, 2 sessions per day for, how long is KubeCon? 3 days, right?
I think it's 3 days.
Yeah.
Last I looked, they didn't actually have a schedule out yet.
Oh, okay. So it would make like 6, maybe if you crunch it up, 12 talks, right?
It's still up to us to decide, I guess, how many we want to do.
Yeah.
I think that based on experience, the use cases we talked about in the last meeting were industrial IoT, telco, and retail. And those certainly have large followings based on prior KubeCons. There are other niche ones like, I don't know, gaming, and can you remember the rest of them? I think we've had as many as 7 categories, but some of them don't have really a large crowd of people who go and self-identify as interested in those use cases.
And I think it depends how much people and material we can get interested in presenting at this. So.
Yeah, and part of it is I don't want it to be just one-way presentations. I'd like to declare these to be birds of a feather where the people introduce themselves. And I think, you know, the idea we had of having a survey, we could potentially do that at this event where we're asking people, what's important to you? What are the challenges? You know, what are the biggest difficulties you're having applying Kubernetes in your use case? Or if you're not applying it yet, what are you most worried about? You know, what are the features you'd need to have?
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, like for the survey, we did a survey list of questions. Like potentially we could add more relevant to each groups and then ask from there.
Do you think we should have a session at all during these, or just have a?
Well, yeah, the session that we got accepted is going to go into the agenda. So we already put in our, you know, the presentation that we were.
Yeah. I was thinking these spin-off events. Do we want to have people present there something if they're interested?
Well, why don't we just throw it open?
Yeah.
If we get somebody who steps up and wants to present, fine. If we get multiple, we'll divide up the time. But I think we should leave at least 50% of the time open for what I would like it to be is more user-oriented.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea. Sure.
Sort of let's listen as much or more than we talk. That's kind of, when you think of it, when we've had our lunches, that's kind of what really went on, right? We didn't have any presentation at all, really. Although maybe some people talked about a certain subject spontaneously, but it wasn't a deck format.
Yeah, it was free form.
And the issue is, I think that we may not, I'm guessing that we can't or even shouldn't ask the CNCF to put this in the official calendar because they've already got their own sessions. And, you know, I don't think they're going to want, if every SIG and working group and user group went there and asked for 6 sessions in the calendar is just going to be so overwhelming that it's going to be a problem. And they're not really going to want to host the Zooms in whatever the official, I assume they're doing it in Zoom. I haven't actually heard whether that is the technology they're going to choose to use either. But, you know, I think that we have enough people here that we could host this in Zooms, especially if we don't put these all on top of one another. We can just use the working group Zoom account. Yep. And that would be good to use because then the recording gets folded on up into our standard place for the working group as well.
Yeah.
But I think this is what we can do is in the official session, we can announce these supplementals and of course promote it leading into the event. But I don't think that, I don't think we're going to expect it to appear on the official calendar. If anybody else has a different attitude on that, fine, we could ask. The other thing is if we ask, they could ask us not to do it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. But I think also we have enough reach in the community to basically promote it on our own, right?
Right. Yeah, if we had, I'm not expecting us to have 1,000 attendees. I mean, I think kind of even the free levels of, you know, I have a Zoom Pro from work, but I think we can get enough accounts or just use the one for this group that we should be fine with the level of the attendee count that I'd expect to have.
Yeah, cool.
That's good.
So I was already started asking people. So for the industrial one, we have a project. I'll put it again in the chat. So there's a Cloud2Edge IoT package done at the Eclipse IoT, which basically tries to provide like a usable, get different pieces and different projects from the Eclipse IoT community and provide them as a usable package on their own. So this first Cloud2Edge package is basically a Kubernetes package to install the connectivity gateway, device twin, and device management into a single package. So I think because it's all Kubernetes, so it's not a Kubernetes in terms of architecture, but it's a Kubernetes in terms of how you deploy and run this application. Could be maybe an interesting topic to present at this group, or maybe at some of these events, if you're interested.
Yeah.
So it's basically a Helm chart to provide the whole IoT cloud platform basically on any Kubernetes cluster. It's a pure IoT use case, no edge at this point, but that should be the next one. So we already started working with Kilton to make the next one, which will be more edge oriented, and also try to provide more packages that are basically IoT applications in the background, consuming this data and getting it. The whole point of these packages is to provide like a easy getting started experience for the people. So right now you can get all these projects, Honodito and Hogbit, and install it yourself, and it will take you a lot of time. But the idea of this package is to have like a one Helm command.
Does this install them all, or you're allowed to select and choose?
No, this is install them all and configure them to work together properly. With a single command. So that's the whole point. So yeah, the idea to come is to have something to do with IOFOG and have a package to demonstrate more edge-like deployment. Also try to figure out what we can do for like a kind of like a test bed or something. So the real application that will basically simulate and consume data and show people how to actually, write those applications and reuse those backend components, so to say.
Is this Helm chart maintained by anybody officially, or?
Yeah. It's maintained by this project, and it's official Eclipse IoT project with all the structure that goes into there. I'm one of the committers there, but yeah, people leading it are trying to keep it recent with all the recent releases, and yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a good thing to talk about to me.
Yeah, and it could be like basically industrial IoT use case, because it's not set to be used only in that particular vertical, but it's at the moment mostly done. It's mostly people involved into industrial IoT that's building this tech. So yeah, I just wanted to put it out. So when we started talking about this was come to my mind as one of the topics that we can have at least for one of these sessions. If not for those sessions, we can organize always a presentation in the regular working group meeting, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think like for the presentation Steve and I were planning to do is around application, right?
Right.
Application development, deployment, operations. So I think last time Haishi presented about Home or Dapper, potentially we could have a targeted session around like targeted for developers. And then a lot of the survey questions were for that, like to understand from tooling, programming model or app model perspective, what are the needs from people's perspective. And then what are the available solutions, like open source projects that can help people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the topic of the main session, right?
Yes. So I wonder, like, if we could use the Zoom meeting as have a dedicated follow-up as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's an important topic in general. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's the point for Kubernetes. Like, it's an application orchestrator, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But you need to write those applications as well, and that's where I usually find more lack of the material, right?
Sure. Yeah, that's the point. One of the points for Dapper, like we talked last time. Okay. Normally, like for the evening session, do we get people like in Asia or?
You mean the session we're in, the meeting we're in now?
Yes.
We do. I'd say that it depends, and we do better when we've got an actual organized talk on the agenda.
Okay.
When we had the speaker on microcates, that one had, I think, a little better attendance because it can draw a crowd. And the other time I think we had a fair number of people is when that other project on Kubernetes at Edge, the research network, when those people came on board, the people from Sorbonne, that was relatively high attendance. But when we go and no one suggests an item for the agenda, I'm guessing people go take a look at that document And if there's not much there or nothing there, then they don't show up.
But these are the best agenda items when we just go freestyle.
Yeah, you can talk about whatever you want.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Moritz, did you plan to present your project? I know we discussed that.
Yes.
Privately.
I also thought about some other talks or people that I could talk to, which basically ran out of steam because most of them aren't yet using Kubernetes. I think the best or the highest I got was Docker, which of course could be interesting, like seeing the evolution of a firm or a company towards this trend, I would say. But I'm not quite sure if it's suitable, like on KubeCon, to just not talk about Kubernetes. On the other hand, I could easily do a talk on our research project, what we are doing there. So basically, we are setting up a Kubernetes cluster for multiple research institutes for manufacturing, and also try out microservice style architectures for controlling manufacturing machines. So that could probably easily fill 30 minutes, 1 hour, whatever. So yeah.
Cool. So that would also go mostly in the industrial track,
Yes.
right?
Yes. This is mostly manufacturing or production systems, basically. The whole project is centered around this idea of bringing internet to the production world, basically. So yeah, this is manufacturing, yeah.
Cool. Does anybody knows a little bit more about someone doing practical stuff around AI and Kubernetes, and you know how we can moderate that?
Well, there is a working group for machine learning that already exists, so it's kind of similar to our group. It meets my time Mondays at 4 p.m. And a lot of times they haven't had any talk and they cancel it same day, but it does exist. So there already is a group doing that. So I don't know that they often get into doing it at Edge, but you know, as opposed to the group being the general subject of doing machine learning.
Yeah.
I think my experience is most of the people joining that meeting are coming in from China too. I just realized I flipped off my camera. I figured out why I couldn't find all those open source summit links. I, in addition to my standard laptop, I use a Chromebook, and I had opened all those links there. So I was looking through my browser saying, where did they go? And found them on my other computer.
I think the problem with machine learning on Kubernetes is that basically the application isn't any different, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like some kind of binary or some kind of Python script you deploy, and could be anything, you know? might be quite hard to distinguish that, because you can't really see from the outside if it's run on Kubernetes or not.
Yeah.
I think in my experience, the unique aspect of doing it at Edge is I think it's fairly common because of resource considerations to try to set it up bifurcated, where you do training in cloud and then execute the result out at the edge, rather than trying to do the whole thing out at Edge.
Yeah.
And that does introduce some unique considerations. I think a lot of those infrastructure things are perhaps a little challenging to run at Edge too, where I've been to a lot of talks where they assume that they're using these super powerful cloud-hosted TensorFlow systems or GPU systems that, really for training, the need isn't continuous. So the cloud model of only paying for peak loads when you need them is really economically attractive too. And a lot of the talks are frameworks to let you do those cloud-hosted intermittent training events. And I don't know how applicable they are to Edge use cases.
I just read an article, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago from Tesla, that they are having this crazy machine learning framework where you can basically, let's say you have like a data set where you want to detect, I don't know, bicycles or bicycle drivers. And they have like this framework that you can run your tests or your algorithms. And when you see something like a car with a bicycle on the back, which of course isn't really a bicycle driver, but still your network is going to detect it, you can like select this kind of picture, and then you kind of like select multiple of them, and then you create a new network which is basically detecting these kind of images in a live video stream. And then this one gets downloaded to the cars, and the cars start basically pulling similar pictures during drive or during driving, and kind of collect this new data set for the user, and then sends it off to the cloud so somebody else can take a look at it later on, and maybe you retrain their models. I'm not quite sure how they actually manage that, but I could imagine that they use Kubernetes for that, because it sounds like
I'm having these crazy ideas that I don't want to be the person on the bicycle. If they train off of recorded videos with people manually doing markup, I don't want to be the first live participant in establishing how well that machine learning algorithm really was trained.
Yeah, but what I found really cool about this idea is that they have like this live camera running on a car, and then you kind of just upload the model on the go, and start picking your frames depending on what your model on the car says. It could be quite interesting to see how they actually deploy these models. If they have something custom, or if they have an Kubernetes Edge running on there.
So speaking of that subject, as we speak, I'm cutting and pasting these open source summit things. So there is one on that. And Cindy, your favorite topic of application has a session too.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for letting me know.
So if you have the doc open, you can, I think you can probably see them now.
Okay.
And when is this happening? Oh, June, okay.
Forgot. Are you guys aware of organization open source for industrial IoT? They are like setting up an industrial standard. I forgot what's it called. Is that called Open Manufacture?
OMP,
Yes.
Open Manufacturing Platform. I'm aware a little bit about it. I think Red Hat joined recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I will participate a little bit, at least at the beginning, to just see what's going on there and if we from the engineering could benefit. But it looks interesting. It's mostly Microsoft and BMW effort at the moment, as far as I could see. So
Really in the sector, some of those industry groups go back all the way to the 90s. Because I used to work with a startup in that space. There were a lot of them that, I don't know, one of the biggest ones were based on Microsoft technology that was originally dynamic data exchange, doing drivers for industrial sensors and controllers. And it had a pretty huge membership. Certainly in the 90s, it was dominant.
Yeah.
There are also groups, I spoke at one of them, but in that space of industrial automation, there's a group, at least in the United States, it's pretty dominant, the Instrumentation Society of America. And, they have their own things like meetups and can get fairly decent attendance. And there's a category of people who are control engineers who are more educated for designing control systems as opposed to software. And there's kind of a crossover of those people with, the software people. The industry predates, if you go back far enough, a lot of those controllers were even things like thermostats that were electromechanical in nature, and for probably the last 40 years it's moved into digital and software in the devices. But the design of those control loops, originally people were doing those with mechanical devices and even pneumatics. And how you tune those control loops is that you can get a college degree in that subject.
So Cindy, are you going to be involved in the OMP?
No, I know like in my org, there are few people because this is a major Microsoft organized group. Yes. Yeah, we are a big contributor there. I'm pushing for the industrial 4.0 standard. Yeah. I think for the industrial IoT subject, when we are meeting, we would like to hear like how people are thinking, what kind of industrial IoT standard the customers or people are using.
Cool. So yeah, we can talk about it as time goes by.
Yes.
I at the moment don't know nothing about it, so just need to get more.
Watching a lot of Microsoft announcements on Edge and IoT that don't necessarily seem to be Kubernetes related, but I'm interested in them. You've been putting out a lot of interesting press releases, at least lately.
Yeah. I think down the similar topic, it will be good like for our group to write a paper or something, summarize like what's going on in the open source community around all the Edge IoT area. Like I think originally we have the white paper, we list out all the scenario and potential architecture. Now, like there are a lot of open source projects occurring, like exist or started in multiple places. We've heard about them. I'm thinking we could like start writing another one.
Yeah, I think that my perspective, I'm ready to hear arguments with this, but I see a lot of those that are sort of, in my mind, too vendor dominated, where I think
Sure.
that the world could use more of those things done by users, but then the users often don't have enough interest from their employer to pay them to spend a lot of time on it, unfortunately.
Yeah, because like in our group, we've talked about K3S, CubeEdge, Micro K8. I know like a Linux Foundation Edge, LF Edge has a bunch of Akrino, or like I think Dan, you guys have been doing like the Edge fork. It would be good to like we list out all of them and then how they can be used. And then
Yeah, it's almost like there's too many of them, like Akrino,
yes, exactly.
EdgeX Foundry, and it to the casual observer, there seems to be enough overlap that you sit there looking at them wondering whether the world needs all of these solutions or whether they couldn't get together and unify.
Yeah, I thought that's like something our group can contribute in and guide kind of provide some guidance or like at least some suggestions.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know, I don't want to nominate myself to be a kingmaker where I identify 5 of them and say this one's the best. And the blowback from that could get pretty ugly. But then again, having looked at sessions where people just did surveys, my experience for most of those coming away from spending the time looking at one of those presentations is that they were too superficial to be useful. It's sort of like you want somebody to have spent the time to actually do kind of a bake-off where you try them all, maybe even live, and you know, give the audience a kind of a firsthand view of what the experience is like when you shop and compare against these things. That I haven't seen, but it would take quite a bit of effort to do it.
Sure. I think we have a group of people we can all like contributing. We could start a doc. If needed, I can kickstart, and then people in this group, we have people from K3S, CubeEdge, or Micro K8. We can all contribute into the doc. Yeah.
You know what? I'd almost pay to watch this as a conference event if we invited these people with these projects, like, I don't know, throwing out a few EdgeX Foundry, Akrino, and you ask for the representatives to show up, and then they, instead of demoing their own, they cross over and do the other one live. Like you have to use the published documentation, and we give them all like something to accomplish. Oh, that, I don't know if anyone would agree to do that, but as from a prospective user viewpoint, I think that would be eye-opening.
I think that would be a huge concept, not just for this topic, but technology in general.
Yeah.
So define a task and the application and get your competition to use your technology.
It's the kind of thing where if we were in corporate, I think that it would go up for review with management and no one would ever approve it. It would be deemed too high risk that it's going to blow up and create some kind of embarrassment, right?
So like 20 minutes there, like, oh man, that's way better than ours.
It's recorded on video.
Abort the mission.
That's a good idea. At least, you know, in the Chinese like army, there's a saying: when you fight against your enemy, you should know the other side. That's a way.
You know, the other way to do it, where you wouldn't need people getting permission to participate, but somehow you'd have to fund it or recruit these people. If we could get a bunch of college students yeah, like interns to go take this on, where you just divide them up and you give them these and give them like a mission, like a hackathon, but they get assigned what technology they have to attempt to use and then come back and see what the results are. Now, it could be just by random chance your teams would not be equal, but still, I think you'd get some good data on whether, you know, not all open source is equal in terms of quality of documentation, how bug-free the stuff is, and how well maintained. And those kinds of things are an expensive investment for a prospective user to go out there and figure out. It would be a valuable service for the world to have it done. I don't know how we could pull it off, but it'd be interesting.
Yeah, it can be a good like research paper. Yeah, I agree with you.
But Cindy, the idea about white paper, I think it might work very good as a blog post, maybe. I mean, we can work on it in the same way, but it sounds like a good blog post, maybe to work with CNCF on to promote.
Exactly. That's
the whole
part
landscape
of the,
and
yeah. Sounds good. I think in what format we can be flexible.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, I now, if you guys open that document, the sessions that I've curated are there. You might want to go to the whole schedule site though, because I might have missed some, and I sort of cherry picked the ones that I was saying, gee, I want to try to catch these myself. So there might be a few others in there that you'd be interested in if you wanted to look at it. But I think I'm going to try to register for that conference and catch some of these. And if nothing else, it will be good to watch it as training for us doing our own session online.
Yeah, it's a different experience for sure. All right.
Sure. Okay. Nice meeting all of you. It's been a while.
Yeah. Good to have you back.
And then,
sure.
Yeah, let's hopefully aspire to getting some topic on the agenda to up our actual users for the next meeting on the North American cycle, if anybody's got any ideas.
Sure.
I think the blog post could be one, like just if like the different projects can contribute to it and talk about it, showcase. I don't know.
Okay, well, you don't have to come up with it now, but just
Sure.
throw it in the agenda doc.
Yeah.
And that would be.
I'm just thinking aloud. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. I don't have anything else for this evening, and we're coming close to the hour.
Yeah. I think I'll see you guys next time.
Okay, good night.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.